Hiya Chris, great to meet up with you at the range the other day. Great result for Blackburn Rovers as well, which I'm sure was a nice end to your day after a very successful lesson as well. If we take a little look at the session in whole, what we were talking about was really tidying up P1 to P2. Trying to really get this takeaway much more like you see here with Charlie Wee, where the hands work up the hand plane before moving on to elbow plane as the backswing progresses. One of the things we've seen in the past with yourself is the hands have tended to work up quite early, and as a result the club rolls behind the hands, left arm separating from the side. You can see the left arm working away from you there. Hips don't do a great deal in the early part of your backswing either, and as a result we then get a little bit out of sequence, very flat with the shaft at P3, and a steepening of the shaft as we're coming down, which is causing the swing path to be a little bit too much to the left, cutting across the ball, which is not ideal for hitting push throws. So a lot of this is set in place from P1 to P2. You can see there, and to be fair to yourself, you put a lot of work in, and that is much better and much tidier than it used to be, but still isn't good enough to achieve the ball flight we want on a consistent basis. So we're trying to achieve a much more online position at P2. Now one of the things we've discussed here is that usually when a player is arriving in this position, there's a lack of setting of the wrist during the takeaway. So what we're going to try and do is put it in there before we start, and you can see here with a drill at the bottom, you're going to set the wrist early. You can see there now that the club's well into the backswing, and the hands haven't really lifted off that much, so they're not lifted off hand plane at that point. I'd still eventually like to see you do this with a little bit more movement in your lower body. So as we put this into motion, I'd like to see, as you're setting the wrist, I'd like to see that right knee just straighten a little bit, engaging that right hip a little bit earlier, which would help you keep the hands coming in. You do tend to get the hands drifting out a little bit as you do that drill. However, now that it's in there, we can start to just work the arms up during the takeaway or during the rest of the backswing. So we're going to put that set in there a little bit earlier, get those wrists livened up, and get that set of the wrist working the club up. And as a result, when we get to the top of your backswing there now, we can see already that we're starting to get a little bit more length at the top. Arm plane a little bit more upright than it was before. See here, certainly more length on the swing. And as we load, accumulator 2 better, and number 4 loads a little bit more in the backswing, we're going to start to look a little bit less shut at the top of the backswing, which we're already seeing signs of here when we compare these two swings. Just play you down at a little frame or two. If we look at P3, we can already start to see a change there in the angle of the shaft from your original swing to your swing when you're doing the drill. So there's a definite change in the angle of the shaft. But again, if I just get rid of those lines for you, and I move Charlie up to P3, the big difference between you and him here now is that the hands are in line with the chest, whereas Charlie's are in line with the base of his right bicep. So again, not enough inward movement. But having said that, with the hips not doing a great deal from P1 to P3, it's very hard to get the hand pass to work in sufficiently. So set the wrists a little bit earlier during the drill, but also feel like as you're setting the wrists, you're livening the hips up. Much better position at the top on that one. But you can see you're so used to getting that club out at 6. So we do need to work on your linear movement a little bit to help with P6. Now, when we looked at you from face on, one of the things that I've done here is compared you with Charlie Wee. We did talk about you leaning onto your left just a little bit too much. I'd like to see you back that off so it looks a little bit more like the scene with Charlie at the bottom of the screen. Found it very hard. There's no linear movement there with the hips whatsoever. As what we're going to see with Charlie is much more separation of the lower and upper centre during the downswing. The difference here between upper and lower centre, so the hips moving further forward for longer, is what helps keep the club on the inside by controlling the rate at which accumulator 1, 2 and 3 unload during the downswing. We've given you some drills for your extension. You can use the swing or your hip slide. You can use the drill where you move your hips into the wall after completing a backswing. I like the drill where you just take the club back with no accumulators whatsoever and try and hit the ball as far as you can from there. So you're just using the linear movement and tucking aspect of the swing to hit that ball or power that shot. And also hit some shots, as we were discussing with the drill that we gave your friend Mark in his first lesson, where you would have a shaft in the ground where the blue line is here, and you're just going to encourage yourself to stay back all the way through the swing, as we see here with Charlie. Much more tilt in the spine as he's coming through. Right leg straightening, a sign that the play is moving in a linear manner and extending, as opposed to the knees catching up here at P9. All in all though, much better action than it was a few months ago. Tidy P1 to P2 up by encouraging the lowering of number 2 earlier with a little bit more of a lively hip turn. So we want, as the wrists are setting, we want the hips to be turning, and I'm sure you're going to see a marked difference between your swing in at the start of this session and your swing at the start of your next session. Good luck with it. Anything you need, give us a call or drop us an email or get in touch via Facebook. All the best. Well done.